Welcome to Alan Skorsky Reports. I'm Alan Skorsky. Every 4 years since I was able to vote in 1980, I said, this is the most important election of my lifetime. And they were. But for the first time in my life, the future of America and the safety and security of the Jewish people and Jewish nation are on the ballot. Over the last 4 years, and particularly since October 7th, we have seen and been victimized by virulent anti-Semitism not experienced since 1930s Germany, and this is not hyperbole. Unlike Nazi Germany, whose stormtroopers were comprised of white Aryans professing their love of Germany, Jews are being targeted by Marxists, Islamists, and Palestinians chanting death to America and death to Israel. And while many of our typical Jewish organizations have once again failed us, Dov Hikind, who was a New York State Assemblyman from Brooklyn for 36 years and is the founder of Americans Against Antisemitism and is now leading Jews for Safety and Security in America, was recently covered in major media outlets, including the New York Post and Washington Examiner, for placing 15 billboards throughout Jewish counties in Pennsylvania. Signs that read, "Do Jews have a future in America? Only with change, vote wisely. Support Israel, vote Trump. And stop college anti-Semitism, vote Trump." The New York Post continues, Jews for Safety and Security in America consists of former and current Democrats who, after careful reflection, have decided not to vote for the Democratic Party. The decision is driven by a sad realization that the Democratic Party has been infiltrated by extreme and dangerous forces, which are enabling anti-Semitism to grow and flourish, said Hikind. Dov, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you, Alan.
Good. And again, rather than my typical Q&A with my guests, I want to have more of a conversation with you about what's happening in America, the changes that you've seen. Because I remember when I first moved to New York and you were an assemblyman in Borough Park and you would campaign with Alphonse D'Amato, who was a great friend of Israel, one of the best we ever had, to where we are today. And I'm not looking necessarily to bash Democrats, because that's easy to do, but this is more about where we are in America and why this election, more than any other, why Jews in America, as your signs say, are in such grave danger.
Yeah. First of all, Alan, I do agree with you that this particular election may be more consequential than any election in my lifetime. So much is happening and that is shocking, that is just beyond the pale. Prior to October 7th, after I left the assembly, we formed the organization Americans Against Antisemitism because suddenly the numbers were skyrocketing. Things were terrible. I was out there making speeches, I remember confronting Taleb at Rutgers University after a particular incident, literally in her face,
right.
Doing things, that need to be done. But you know what? I wish I could go back to the period of before October 7th. That's how bad it has become. The ADL released its latest figures, 10,000 incidents of hate directed against the Jewish people. I mean, let me repeat that, 10,000 in 1 year. And believe me, Alan, you know that for every incident that is reported, there's at least an incident or two that, is not reported. And I just want to share with you a story that just happened on Shabbos in my shul here out in the Five Towns, Rabbi Bloomstein's shul. A father came over to me to tell me the story about his son, 21 years old, sweetheart of a guy, came back from Israel, studying in Israel. And the father tells me what happened just a couple of days ago. He was coming out of Penn Central Station, was accosted. This is a kid who wears the sitzes out, right. Wears a yarmulke, and he was accosted by someone who was saying Hitler should have finished the job and saying nasty, horrible things. Literally, the guy's wearing a mask, sort of chasing him for a block or two. And, I said, I spoke to him and I said, did anybody intervene? Did anyone get involved? He says, no, nobody. There were hundreds hundreds of people. All people were doing was taking videos.
Right.
Okay. But let me give you the kicker of this. This kid refused to go to the police. I begged him. I said, let me bring your story to the public's attention. It's so horrible. This kid was petrified. He's the victim, and he's petrified. He's afraid. And I'm afraid there are so many other cases besides the numbers that we know about. So we are faced with a very serious situation. One of the billboards, do Jews have a future in America? 5-6 years ago, I don't think anyone would even talk about that.
Right.
Maybe it's not good. Maybe there are problems. There's always anti-Semitism. But now I think very few people would argue about, a year from now, 5 years from now. Another story I want to share with your audience this is a classic. I got a phone call, total stranger. Woman describes herself as elderly. And this is the question she asked me. How will we know when it's time to leave?
Right.
I mean, the woman was, I'm telling you, scared. She wanted to know, are the bells going to ring? Is someone going to announce it? Which organization? She was truly, truly concerned. I calmed her down. I said, don't worry, things will be okay. But things are not okay. Anti-Semitism, hate. To think, Alan, that we could watch in America right now, all over the United States, not tens, not hundreds, but thousands of people in the streets supporting Hamas, supporting Hezbollah, Iran. I mean, that's like a new level of hatred, because we know what these organizations represent. We know what they did on October 7th. And you have Americans in the streets. You have students at universities who are on the side of evil, Jewish students afraid, Jewish students having to hide, Jews in general removing their Star of David or anything that identifies them as Jews. I had someone at my Shabbos table, a 30-year-old, who told me that when he goes into Manhattan, he takes off his yarmulke. Yep. New York. What in God's name is happening? Where are we going? Who's in charge? What is the plan? On and on and on. But we've got a real problem. And the election in November is absolutely critical. And, as you know, I was a Democrat. I supported Republicans. As a Republican, I would support Democrats if they were the best. Right. I am not a Democrat or a Republican, Alan. I'm a Jew, and I'm an American. Those are the criteria. So as a Democrat and being part of the Democratic Conference in Albany for 36 years, I supported the motto. I supported Giuliani. I supported Pataki.
I remember.
And on and on. And I remember being on Fox not so long ago, a couple of days before the election, with Zeldin running for governor, where I supported publicly on Fox Zeldin for governor, the Republican, and the state controller, who's a good friend of mine, who's a Democrat. So again, and a great supporter of Israel and a dear friend. So, people should just realize, Donald Trump, we must vote for him. And people out there who are listening who, they're just not excited about his behavior sometimes, or some of the things he says. I get it. I understand. But there really is no choice. I'm telling you, there really is no choice, because the Democrats have lost their way. The radicals in the Democratic Party are controlling the agenda. You have an administration now in Washington, the Harris administration, that's what I call it, because Biden, I don't know where he is and if he's all there and aware, et cetera. But Harris is running the show, okay? And we've had arms shipments held up to the state of Israel, Israel hands being tied all the time. The American government, this administration, is constantly lecturing Israel, State Department, Defense Department, the White House, unnamed sources criticizing the Prime Minister of Israel, et cetera, et cetera. so to everyone out there, this election is critical. I'm afraid, if God forbid the Democrats win, and this, by the way, goes not just for the presidency, but if you're in a district where there's a race between a Republican and a Democrat for Congress, critical. I would like to see the Republicans continue to control the House, win the Senate, win the presidency. And I'm not saying to anyone that, the Mashiach will come or the Messiah will arrive suddenly. Look, I'm realistic, but we must change Washington. And all the Democrats have done with anti-Semitism is talk, and do absolutely nothing. I'm reading this thing. I shared this before we went on the air. Emhoff,
Doug Emhoff, the first gentleman. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Making a comment that I'm looking for the exact words, that Trump would turn on a dime, that he would betray the Jews. 1, 2, 3. And I read something else. We should be very excited if Emhoff could get to the White House. He's telling us they're going to put a mezuzah in the White House, if they can, possibly.
Right.
Like, who gives a darn about the mezuzah? Why haven't you done anything about anti-Semitism? They had a report that came out of the White House, a lengthy report. I read it. It was, 70 pages, 80 pages. But what have they done? What have they done at universities? Those who commit acts of hate and violence and threaten Jews and take away the rights of Jews to have their freedom, have there been any consequences?
Right.
The answer is no.
Exactly. So let me ask you a few questions regarding Pennsylvania now, because according to the reports, you put up 15 billboards. You were investing about $250,000. Because these are critical. It's a critical state. It's part of the big blue wall. What response have you gotten so far from Pennsylvanians? And have you heard it all from Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, I am thrilled he wasn't picked, because A, he would have helped her a lot, and B, I have no doubt that he would have sold out Israel out of obligation to the party. You see the fact that Kamala Harris picked as her outreach director to the Jewish community and to the Muslim community an anti-Semite and an anti-Israel Jew. So this is what she's done so far. And again, we look back at the Democrat convention. Joe Biden referred to the protesters by saying they have a point. Kamala Harris said that we should not look at the conflict through binary lenses. Walz said that they're protesting for the right reasons. They are supported by CARE. They are supported by J Street. Dov, please. I know you have much to say on this.
Absolutely. First of all, I think it's become very clear by now to everyone why Josh Shapiro was not picked.
Yeah.
I mean, let's understand that. Josh Shapiro, who is a very popular governor in Pennsylvania, a very dynamic, very impressive as an individual, if you've watched him in action, and has a record of being very pro-Israel and spoke out very strongly after October 7th. We now know why he wasn't picked, because he was too supportive of Israel. That's a problem. He's a Democrat. He's liberal. But he was a true supporter of Israel, period. So we now get it. We now understand where Harris's head was, what her people advised her, the Obama people. The Obama people advised her, don't take Shapiro, period. And I agree with you, by the way. Number one, not taking Shapiro, Trump actually, hopefully, will win Pennsylvania. It's very, very close, but they have a chance to win. If Shapiro would have been a candidate, I think they would have won Pennsylvania. So thank God for that. By the way, the thing that just happened recently with Harris, when a student interjected, and basically she went along with this student accused Israel of committing genocide, which is like, hey, wake up, everybody. What in God's name are you talking about? I mean, the Israeli military calls people on their freaking cell phones. They drop the stuff in the community saying, get out. We're going after the terrorists. We don't want to hurt civilians. We don't want to hurt men, women, and children. That's not our objective. We want to get the people who raped our women and butchered the barbarians. We want to get the Hitlers of our generation. That's what we want to do. We don't want to kill innocent civilians, but when you have Hamas and Hezbollah putting their missiles in the civilian areas, in mosques and schools, on and on and on, what the hell are you supposed to do? Alan, what are you supposed to do to go after the terrorists, the barbarians? What do you do? Nothing. Oh, we're going to, in war, in every war that has ever happened, whether it was America or any other democracy, you fight a war by going after the bad guys. And guess what? Innocent people died. That is the price you pay. Otherwise, the bad guys win. You want Hezbollah to win? You want Hamas to win? You want the Houthis to win? I mean, on and on and on. So it's Alan, it's like the world upside down. It really is when you watch the hypocrisy.
And you hit some critical points. When people like Douglas Murray, Dr. Phil, and other intelligent people, Colonel Richard Kemp, they say, in war, civilians do get killed. They are not targeted. But when you listen to Kamala Harris and others like her, what's the first thing they say? Ceasefire. And if you listen to their language, and this really, what really is so dangerous, release of the hostages is almost like a gratuitous ceasefire, stop the violence, and and get the hostages out. They never even name the hostage families. They're referred to almost as a footnote. To them, it's saving Gaza, it's the day after, it's rebuilding Gaza, it's supporting UNRWA. The hostages are an afterthought that they have to throw in, because otherwise, even that is too much politically for them and for the media.
Yeah. I mean, look, you have to be blind not to see the reality of what this administration, Harris, Biden, and the people advising them, who are not friends of Israel, so many of them, we know that. There's no question about that. But it's about political expediency. Right. It's not about doing the right thing. It's not about, with friends like the United States, with this administration in particular, we're in bad shape with these type of friends. The war in Gaza, Alan, would have been over 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, if the United States would have stuck with Israel and said, do what you need to do, we got your back. We don't want American soldiers involved in the Middle East. Israel doesn't want a single American soldier. Let them do the job. Instead, don't go into Rafah. Don't go into Rafah. Don't go here. Don't go there, and so on and so forth. It's a hell of a way for Israel to fight a war. Israel knows very well how to win wars. America, not so. The record is not that great if you look at what's happened in places like Afghanistan and on and on. We're not doing a really great job, but we're always advising Israel. We're telling Israel, you can't win. You can't win. Israel is going to win. They're on the way to winning, and there's a price that's being paid. But they're going to win, and they're going to do what they need to do, period. So everyone out there, if you're not sure, if you're a Trump supporter, fantastic. But if you're not sure, you believe in the things that Trump stands for, but you don't like some of the things he says, or some of the, so like I said before, I understand. I don't like it either. I've got a problem with some of that as well. But it is clear to me who we must support if you care about the well-being of America, and the well-being of the people of Israel.
Now, earlier you mentioned Doug Inhofe. I'm going to tell you another story. This was a couple of months ago. I jumped on a Zoom call for Jews for Kamala Harris. And one of the speakers was Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, infamous anti-Zionist, head of the congregation Bet Simchas Torah, partner of Randy Weingarten, another self-hating Jew. And in her 5-minute speech, and I recorded it, she said that one of the reasons that she supports Harris is because Harris recognizes Israel, but also supports the liberation of Palestine. And this
Oh
was
God.
on a Jews for Harris conference call, a Jews for Harris conference call. One of the invited guests, not somebody who just got on and raised their hand and said, I want to ask a question or make a, this is one of the invited guests. And this is what we are facing. And what's mind-boggling to me, and I still see this, because you mentioned about the way Trump talks. Listen, I'm from Michigan, so I'm used to being polite, and then that's the way I am. But I always knew growing up that New Yorkers they're brusque. The way they talk, it's a language all of on their own. You can't drive on the Belt Parkway or the LIE without getting flipped off at least 5 times in one trip. So why New Yorkers are all of a sudden offended by Trump, to me, is another story, but that's besides the point. Like you said, you're right. Polite, he's not. He's thin-skinned. All those things are true. His record speaks for itself. And when I see Jews saying that he's going to do something different than we did for 4 years, but at the same time ignore all of Harris's anti-Israel stuff, you got to be kidding me. This one did the deed. This one proved himself beyond any shadow of a doubt. Ignore that. This one is in bed with all the worst anti-Semites.
Right.
This one, look, we should believe, will be different.
Look, when people ask me, first of all, I think Donald Trump was the best friend as president that Israel has ever had. And if you asked me, Alan, well, who do you think was the number 2 or number 3 best president? My answer to you would be Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Okay? I was a great fan of Ronald Reagan, but Donald Trump just takes the cake. I mean, you just can't deny that. Right. I mean, every Democratic administration, Republican administration, up until Donald Trump, promised, ran for office, I'm going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. They came to Jewish groups and they lied to them. You and I know. They knew they weren't going to do it, right? One person said he was going to do it, and guess what? He kept his word.
I didn't think he would. Honestly, when he promised, I said, why is he making a promise he's not going to keep? He already has our support. But,
And not only that, with the Golan, being there for Israel at the United Nations, he made peace with some of Israel's neighbors, Arab neighbors, for God's sake. He should have won a Nobel Prize. If his name wasn't Donald Trump, anyone else would have won. Look, they gave a Nobel Prize to Obama. I think it was the first year he was in office. Everyone is still trying to figure out why he got the prize.
Right.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows why the guy got a prize. He hadn't done anything in terms of peace. So Donald Trump as president, and in terms of the Jewish community, the guy was just amazing. And let me mention something else, just, hot off the press. I was watching this, the people of Israel, they're on the front lines. It's their future. They're dying every single day, young men dying to protect the people of Israel and the Jewish people everywhere. So there was a poll that was done among us, in Israel. Who would you support? Who would you like to see get elected as president? Trump, 66%, Harris, 17%. And that is right, left, center. They get it. They understand who is a friend and who is a make-believe friend.
But she's not even a make-believe friend. When she was just recently asked, the thing was 60 Minutes, about do you support Netanyahu? Now remember, when Netanyahu was here, when Obama was president, he made him wait outside while he was having dinner with his family. Now Bibi comes here to speak, and she doesn't come. And then she has a very cold and frank conversation. On 60 Minutes, when she was asked, do you see him as an ally? She pauses and said, well, we are allies with the people of Israel. I know that you posted this on your Twitter account. I'm calling it Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Okay. And I remember I commented, what do you mean you, Kamala Harris, are friends with the Israeli people? You hate the Haredim. You hate the quote unquote settlers. You hate the supporters of Netanyahu, of Smotrich. Who do you support? And who do you think even supports you? Even the people in the kibbutz, who were all supporters of Gaza and wanted peace, even they are opposed it now. So you don't even like anybody in Israel. Even Lapid, maybe he was because he's a schmoozer and a BSer himself. But Israel is in such grave danger. And unlike every past race, and I just remember they kept saying that Republicans and Democrats, and it's all coming out. When you have Nancy Pelosi saying Bibi is the worst president, Gerald Nadler saying he was the worst leader they ever had, Schumer making his anti-Bibi speech, and Biden saying I was happy with his speech. This is the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris is worse. Biden, I don't believe really has any anti-Jewish sentiments in him. He's a schmoozer. He's a guy. He'll have a beer and a kishka with you. Not Kamala Harris. She's a Marxist. She is a J Streeter through and through, and she will be a threat to Israel. And the people she'll bring into her cabinet will be worse.
Oh, there's no question about that. There is no question about that. Look, let's get something straight. Bibi Netanyahu, whether you like him or not, Israel is a democracy. The people of Israel elected him. Right. You need to respect that. You remember when Schumer made his outrageous, I mean, who needs enemies when you have Jews like Schumer?
Right.
When he made those remarks about Israel needing a new leader. Hey, jerk, they elected Bibi Netanyahu. There will be elections in the next cycle or earlier than that. And the people of Israel will make their choice. And by the way, if you're watching the polls in Israel, I mean, it must be driving the Democrats crazy.
Yeah.
But Bibi Netanyahu is going up in the polls. His party is number one right now and has been that for the last couple of months. I mean, you know, they just hate Bibi Netanyahu. But, you know, they talk about a two-state solution. Everyone in Israel, you name the leader, including Lapid, everyone is against a two-state solution. Correct. It is outrageous that the Democrats, and it's all, again, Alan, you know, it's politics.
The Palestinians are against a two-state solution. Who is Biden and Harris? Who are they fighting for? The people who don't even want it?
Well, this is like a knee-jerk thing with the Americans, with the French, the English, and on and on and on. Two-state solution, we're going to solve the problem. There's more support for what happened on October 7th in Judea and Samaria among the Arabs who live there. More support there than in Gaza, for God's sake.
Right.
Wake up.
Dov, you have been incredibly generous with your time. You have been a tremendous fighter for our people. We have elections in less than 1 week. And all I say is, God bless you for everything you've done. We just finished davening, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Simchas Torah. I said, God saved Donald Trump for a reason. Hopefully it's to give America another day.
Absolutely. And with God's help, people go out to vote. I'm going out tomorrow with my family. Vote early, but make sure to vote. And vote, again, I'm saying this, if you like a particular Democrat, you know them personally, they've been great, fine. But vote Republican down the line. Send a message. Send a message to the Democratic Party that the party of 2024 is a party that will lose dramatically and needs to change for the future. You can do it. If you're a Democrat, I'm not telling you to become a Republican. You do whatever you feel is right. But vote for the Republicans. It is about the future of this country and the well-being of Israel.
Dov, have a good evening. God bless.
And thanks for your kind words.
Thank you.